The morning sun in Lagos peeked through dusty windows as Samuel Adideo tightened the last buckle on his small suitcase. It was the season of homecomings, and his village, Ipetimodu, was waiting to receive him after 2 long years. Work in the city had been relentless, but Samuel had carved out a slice of success, a new car, a promotion, and a good name among his peers. It was only fitting that he returned home in style. Yet, in the rush of preparations, one important ritual was overlooked: prayer. His wife, Amara, watched him with concern as he hurriedly sipped his coffee. Her instincts, sharp and unsettling, nudged her spirit. She approached him with a gentle plea, her voice trembling. "Samuel, let's pray before you leave," she said, placing a hand on his shoulder. He brushed her off with a laugh, tossing his car keys in the air. "Amara, not today. I'm late already. What's the worst that can happen?" Her heart dropped. In their 6 years of marriage, Samuel had always been stubborn, confident to a fault. But this time, something felt heavier, like a thick, invisible hand squeezing her chest. As he kissed her hurriedly on the forehead, Amara whispered a prayer under her breath, her eyes glistening with worry. The journey started uneventfully. The Lagos-Ibadan expressway stretched ahead, a winding ribbon of tar bathed in golden heat. Samuel blasted his favorite music, his fingers drumming happily against the steering wheel. Life, he thought, was good. But he failed to notice the small signs: the hawk that crashed into his windshield out of nowhere, the truck driver ahead who made the sign of the cross multiple times before veering off an exit, and the strange sensation of being watched, though the road seemed deserted. 2 hours into the drive, as he approached a narrow, infamous stretch known as Odowage Bend, a chilling sight met him: a white-clad woman standing alone in the middle of the road, motionless. Her face was obscured by a veil, her arms outstretched. Samuel's heart slammed against his ribs. He honked furiously, slowed the car, and cursed under his breath. "What madness is this?" he muttered. The woman didn't move. He swerved dangerously at the last minute, tires screeching. His car skidded across the road, missing her by inches. His breathing came in short, panicked gasps. When he glanced into the rearview mirror, she was gone. As if she had never been there at all. A cold dread settled in Samuel's bones. Shaking his head to clear the rising fear, he pressed harder on the accelerator, desperate to put distance between himself and that cursed spot. He told himself it was a trick of the heat. A hallucination. Anything but the truth clawing at the back of his mind, that maybe, just maybe, Amara's prayer would have shielded him from whatever evil lurked in the shadows of his journey. Far ahead, dark clouds began to gather, swallowing the cheerful sun. Samuel, determined to reach home before the heavens opened, didn't realize he was not traveling alone anymore. The real journey, the one that would test his soul, had just begun. The sky grew darker with every passing mile, thick clouds rolling over like angry waves ready to crash. Samuel turned on his headlights, but even their beams seemed swallowed by the creeping mist that had begun to blanket the road. His palms grew clammy on the steering wheel. Every sensible part of him whispered to stop, to turn back, to pray, but pride can be louder than reason. Up ahead, a dilapidated sign barely visible through the mist read, "Welcome to Oko Ife," a small, forested area notorious for accidents and whispered curses. Villagers claimed unseen forces roamed there, seeking whom they might destroy. Samuel had always dismissed such tales as superstition, the desperate clinging of rural minds to invisible fears. But tonight, superstition felt very real. As he entered the forested path, the trees loomed on either side like silent witnesses, their twisted arms clawing at the night sky. The radio crackled and died. His phone displayed no service. Samuel cursed under his breath, drumming his fingers nervously. Without warning, a figure darted across the road. Samuel slammed on the brakes, heart pounding against his ribs. His car screeched to a halt, skidding sideways. He peered through the windshield, breathing hard. There was no one. Just the thick mist swirling like ghosts. Then the car engine sputtered and died. Panic gripped him. He turned the ignition again and again, but the car only coughed weakly, refusing to come back to life. The oppressive silence of the forest closed in. He locked his doors instinctively, scanning the roadside, but saw nothing except the shifting mist. From somewhere deep in the trees, a low, bone-chilling laugh echoed. Samuel's mouth went dry. He remembered his wife's pleading eyes that morning, the way her voice cracked when she asked him to pray. Guilt gnawed at him, sharp and relentless. He bowed his head at last, closing his eyes tightly. God, if you're listening, if you still care, please help me. Tears stung his eyes, but before he could say more, the mist outside his window parted slightly, revealing a sight that froze the breath in his lungs. A small crowd had gathered by the side of the road. They were dressed in rags, their eyes hollow and dark, their skin pale like people long dead. Some crouched low, some stood hunched, others crawled, but all their faces were turned toward Samuel's car, staring. Waiting. He reached for his phone in a frenzy, but it slipped from his shaking hands and clattered onto the floor. The figures began to move toward the car, slow at first, then faster, as if drawn by the scent of his fear. Samuel gripped the steering wheel, praying in broken gasps now, real, desperate prayers. Not the empty words he used to recite out of habit, but soul-wrenching, heart-crying prayers. Just as the first of the figures reached the edge of the car, there was a flash of bright, blinding light, so powerful it seared through the mist. The figures shrieked and recoiled, vanishing into the darkness. Samuel blinked, shielding his eyes. And standing there, at the front of his car, was a man dressed in brilliant white, his face serene, holding out a hand as if guarding Samuel from the horrors that lurked beyond. Samuel sobbed aloud, overwhelmed, broken, and grateful. The engine sputtered and roared back to life. Samuel didn't hesitate. He floored the accelerator, speeding out of the haunted woods, never once daring to look in the rearview mirror. The mist thinned as Samuel tore through the forest road, his heart thundering louder than the engine. The haunting images lingered in his mind, the hollow-eyed crowd, the laughing shadows, the man in white who saved him. His hands trembled so violently that he could barely keep the car steady. When the trees finally broke away and the open farmlands of his village stretched out before him, Samuel released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The familiar sight of thatched roofs and red earth roads brought a wave of comfort. Yet beneath that comfort was a lurking fear. He now knew the world wasn't as simple as he once believed. There were forces, unseen and deadly, moving among men. As he crossed the village square, old women and children paused to watch him pass. Their faces were filled not with joy, but quiet weariness, as if they could sense the dark cloud clinging to him. Samuel barely managed a weak wave. His father's compound was bustling with preparations. "You didn't pray before you traveled, did you?" Bobertan asked, his voice low and grim. Samuel shook his head, shame burning his face. Bobertan sighed heavily and motioned for everyone to clear the area. He led Samuel into the small prayer hut beside the house, a sacred space filled with the scent of burning incense and the worn pages of countless prayer books. Inside, the old man knelt, beckoning Samuel to join him. "You think your success shields you," Bobertan said softly. "But it makes you a brighter target. Not everyone who smiles at you rejoices with you. Some smile with their mouths and curse with their hearts." Samuel bowed his head, the truth of the words sinking deep into his soul. Bobertan began to pray, fervent, powerful prayers that shook the small hut. As he prayed, Samuel felt something lift off his shoulders, a heavy, suffocating presence he hadn't even fully realized he was carrying. "Says shields you," Bobertan said softly. But it makes you a brighter target. Not everyone who smiles at you rejoices with you. Some smile with their mouths and curse with their hearts. Samuel bowed his head, the truth of the words sinking deep into his soul. Bobotan began to pray, fervent, powerful prayers that shook the small hut. As he prayed, Samuel felt something lift off his shoulders, a heavy, suffocating presence he hadn't even fully realized he was carrying. Tears streamed down his face as he joined in, the words pouring from a place deep inside him that he had long ignored. Outside, unseen to them, the shadows that had clung to Samuel's car hissed and retreated, unable to withstand the fire of sincere prayer. Later that night, as the village gathered to celebrate his return, Samuel sat quietly beside Amara, who had just arrived from Lagos after hearing of the ordeal. She held his hand tightly, her eyes filled with unspoken prayers of gratitude. Samuel realized that without her faith, without her whispered pleas to the heavens on his behalf, he would never have made it home. His success, his pride, his plans, none of it would have mattered. The real battle was not of flesh and blood, but of the spirit. The drums beat loud and the laughter of the villagers echoed through the night, but Samuel's heart was far away from the celebration. Sitting quietly under a mango tree behind the compound, he watched the stars blink into existence in the vast African sky. Each twinkling light felt like a reminder, a silent testimony of a power bigger than all his ambitions. Amara sat beside him, her head resting gently on his shoulder. They spoke little, yet everything was understood between them. Her faith had been his shield. Her prayers had battled demons he hadn't even believed in. After a long while, Bobotan joined them. His walking stick tapped against the red earth as he settled down slowly, his voice breaking the heavy silence. "You know," he began, staring into the night, "in our father's time, no man, no matter how powerful, dared travel without prayer. They understood something modern men have forgotten: the journey of life is fought first in the spirit before the feet ever touch the road." Samuel nodded slowly, feeling the weight of those words settle deep inside him. "I was arrogant," Samuel confessed, his voice raw with emotion. "I thought my education, my money, my strength, would protect me. But I was wrong." Bobotan smiled sadly. "There are roads where no car can save you, Samuel. Only grace." Samuel knew he would never forget what he had seen on that road, the hollow stairs, the mist, the figure in white. He now understood, success could attract jealousy, unseen enemies, and forces that smiled in the day but plotted in the night. Prayer was not just a ritual. It was armor. The next morning, before the sun even rose, Samuel stood at the village square, gathered with his family. Together, they prayed, fervently, sincerely, not just for journey mercies, but for protection, for discernment, for humility. He prayed until his voice cracked, and for the first time in years, he felt peace. A peace not earned by wealth or status, but by surrender. When he finally returned to Lagos, Samuel was a changed man. No meeting was too important, no journey too urgent to ignore the need for prayer. He became known in his neighborhood not just for his achievements, but for his unwavering faith. His story spread quietly, whispered from home to home, the tale of the man who almost lost everything because he thought prayer was optional. A powerful reminder that in Africa, and indeed, in life, prosperity without protection was a house built on sand. As Samuel often told anyone who would listen, not everyone smiling at you is celebrating you. And not every journey is made with legs alone. Some battles must be fought before they ever reach your eyes. And somewhere deep in the unseen realms, Amara's whispered prayers continue to rise like incense, unseen, but undefeated. That's why I say, prayer is the strongest weapon, and not everyone is happy with your success.